In this Kotlin on Android development tutorial, we're going to create a dialog for our history lists. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, so moving on in this tutorial series, and just so you note from my web page here at mobattuts.com, you can get the code to start the tutorial directly here under this Git tag. And also just to note, if I scroll to the bottom there, we do have the entire web series for this as well. So if I just click on that, and these are all the web series for the ListView tutorial. So anyway, we'll just go back. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is to create a new dialog class, a DialogFragment class. And what we're going to do there is put our history lists into that and just display our history lists when we do a long press on the web view navigation buttons. So I'll go into my Android Studio. Just to note, this is Android Studio 3.0 Beta 3, I believe. Okay, so here we have the source code. I do want to create another Kotlin class, and I'm going to create it in the same package. So I'm just going to right click here, click New, click Kotlin File Class, and just select Class down here, and the name I'm going to give this is going to be History Dialog Fragment. Select OK to that. That's now created. Just let me close down the side window here. Okay, basically I want to extend it from the DialogFragment class. And I'm just going to select the support version there so we can support older versions of Android operating system. Just need to put some brackets around that. Okay, the first thing I want to do in here is just to create a value. What we're going to be doing is passing the history list from the main activity across to this activity, and that needs to happen in an argument, and I just need a string just to reference that. You'll see what I mean a bit later on. So I'm just going to create a string value. I'll call it history, and we'll initialize that just with the history text. Okay, now I'm just going to override one of the functions here. It's going to be create dialog. So it's going to be this one, on create dialog, to actually create a dialog. I'm just going to remove the return just for a moment. We'll stick that back in at the end of this implementation of this function. Okay, so first thing I want to do is this dialog is actually going to implement what we call an alert dialog box, and I'm going to create a builder for that, do an initialization of the settings for that builder, and then we'll work out setting up the rest of the dialog. So I need to create a value for the builder, and I'm just going to call it alert dialog builder. So I know it's a builder, and that's we're gonna get that from the alert dialog box, and then call builder. And don't forget to put the little brackets at the end there. Okay, now I'm going to need to pass in the context of the calling activity, and to get that in Kotlin we can just call activity. I create another value here called history list, and I'm going to actually get this, let's call it history list, let's give it a bit of context. And what I'm going to do here is we're actually going to get this history list from the arguments. So basically that's how you pass things through to a dialog fragment, through the argument settings. So if we call argument, And in Java it would have been get arguments, but it's been simplified in Kotlin. And it's going to be basically get string array list. And inside here is where we call our history value we set up before. And I pressed the wrong key there. New keyboard. Currently, history list is going to be a array list, and I want to convert that just to a standard array of strings because that is what's required for our AlertDialog.Builder. And so to get that from the history list, I can just call to typed array, and that will return it to a standard array of strings. Now we can go back into our alert dialog, and now we can call set items, and I do want the Kotlin version for that, wherever it is. This one here. And we can pass into our history list first, pass the history in first. And now I'm going to select the on-click listener there. And basically, excuse my voice. Basically, the on-click listener is just going to pick up when we click on a particular element in our array. I'm losing my voice here. And I'm just going to scoot across to the right hand side of that little arrow. And for the moment here, I'm just going to add a toast just to confirm we're displaying the web title. Toast, make text, contacts, we can just call on activity for that. And now I can display my history list. And we'll just call the particular element for that, which will be I, because that's the value that's supplied to us from the interface. And I'll select the time for that. And now we always need to show a toast. Okay, so that's the AlertDialog.Builder created, so we can create our dialog from that. So I'm going to set up another value here. I'll just call it dialog equals AlertDialog.Builder, and we'll call create. So we now have a dialog there. Now we've created the dialog, I can get a list view from that dialog. So I'll create a new value, I'll just call it ListView. And we just call our dialog and call ListView. And so that will generate a list view for our value. Now once we've got the list view, I just want to touch it up, just beautify it, make it look a little bit prettier. So we'll just call background equals, now I'm going to create a color drawable here. And inside the brackets, I just can call color, and I'm just going to call this a light gray just to set the background color for our list. Now I also want to set the color for our dividers, so I can call list view again, call divider down here. And again, it's a color drawable. And I'm going to set this color to red. And I just want to set the divider height as well. So I'll call list view divider height, and I'm just going to set that to 2. And finally, we do need to return our dialog back to the main activity to get it displayed. So we'll just call return, not that, try that again, call return, and it's dialog. Okay, so that should be all we need to do for our dialog. We do need to go back into the main activity and call that dialog fragment. So I'm going to create a new function underneath the main activity on create. So let's call fun, and I'll just call get history dialog. In this case, it's going to take an array list, so I can just put history list. And that is going to be an array list of strings. Okay, first thing I want to do is to create a dialog fragment object. So I'll create a value for that, and I'll just call this the history dialog fragment. And I'll initialize that with the fragment object we just created before. Okay, that's now created. Now I need to send our array list down into our dialog fragment, and we did set up the arguments in our dialog fragment. Let's just go back to quickly revisit here. So in here we've got the arguments, and that's how we get our array list from these arguments. So we need to set that in the main activity, which is what we're going to do now. And first one is going to create a bundle to hold our history list. And it's a bundle object basically. And now we can just call bundle, and we've got a put string array list here. And so I'm just going to use that. And the first value I need there is just the string that's representing that particular item. So we can call our history array fragment. That's why we set up the history value there. And now it's just a matter of passing in a history list parameter. Okay, we've got that there. We do need to add that now to our dialog fragment object. So we'll call the dialog fragment object history dialog fragment object. And now we can call the arguments and just provide it with the bundle we just set up. And finally, it's just a matter of showing our dialog. So we'll call the history dialog fragment, and we'll call show. And I want to use the support fragment manager because it supports our particular version of the fragment. And we are going to pass a little string here. It's in case you want to tag it, or if you wanted to get this fragment back again. And I'll just call this history dialog. Okay, that should be the only changes we need to make to this particular function, but we now need to call this function. So we're going to call this from inside the long click listeners in our onCreate function there. So it's just a matter of, we'll do the back button first. So it's just a matter of calling our history get history dialog, and we'll put in this get back history, which returns an array list. We'll put that in as the parameter. And we'll do the same for the get forward history. And those should be the only changes we need to make. Now I'm going to run this, generate a history, and then I'll show you the end result of what we get for our dialog fragment. Okay, the application's now started. I have generated a little bit of a history there. So I'm just going to press the long press the back button there. And as you can see, we've now got a bit of a history being generated there in the order I want. And remember, I did add onClick listener in our dialog fragment, so let's select one item there. And as you can see, YouTube mobile app tutorials is being displayed. So that works fine there. That's what we want to display, and let's make sure we got the right web title displayed. I'm going to go back a couple of times here. Now I'm going to do a long Now I'm going to do a long click on the forward arrow here. And as you can see, we've got the forward list there. And if I just press the web view archives, they're being displayed there as well. And as I'm trying to get into the habit of doing, I'm just going to step through the code changes we've made just to reinforce just the material we've learned. And so I'm in my main activity here. I'm just going to put a breakpoint here just for our get history dialog, just to talk through. And let's go into our history dialog fragment, and I will put in one just here. I might have to just step through that, but yeah, just just here. Okay, now I'm going to run this in debug mode. I've generated a history list, so I'm just going to press the long press on the on back history icon. Okay, I did have to relocate the breakpoint just one breakpoint down below because the other one wasn't skipped, but it was calling the history dialog fragment there, and I actually want to call that after creating it basically. Okay, so now we've created our history dialog object. Now we're creating a bundle to hold our array list. Now we're inserting our array list into that bundle, and if we continue on, we're supplying our bundle with our array list actually to the history, the dialog fragment object itself. And now we're going to display our dialog fragment. So I'm just going to select continue on, and we've jumped into our actual dialog fragment here. And so now we're actually going to get our history list back again from the arguments. And let's step down one more. And I just want to look at our history list. There it is there. And there's our history list there with a reasonable size history. And again, if you looked at the previous tutorials, we'll put this in a reverse side so it's intuitive to the user who wants to navigate the web view history. Anyway, so let's keep going down. So here we're going to create a AlertDialog.Builder object to do our initializations for it. And we're setting the items, and we're also setting our on-click listener so we can respond to whatever element is pressed. And from our AlertDialog.Builder, we can call create to actually create the dialog, which is what we're doing here. And once we've got a dialog object, we can generate a list view from that. And once we have the list view, we can just do some touching up, such as setting the background color, setting the divider color, and setting the divider height. And then we just continue on there, and I am seeing the dialog being displayed on my screen. So that concludes the Kotlin on Android how to create a dialog fragment. And in that fragment we created a list just to hold our web history list, just to ease navigation for going forward and back when you're web browsing using the web view. So that concludes this tutorial. For those of you who are new to development, mobile software development, Kotlin development or Android development or Git, and if you just sign up to my free membership and mobile application tutorials, I do provide videos on how to get the code changes at the start of the tutorial and at the end of the tutorial as well. And so that will help you along just how, if you want to get the source code just to check if you've done things right, or if you just want to start off a particular episode, you can pull down the code for that as well. That concludes this tutorial. If you haven't already, click on that subscribe button if you want to get notified of the latest tutorials that I'm publishing. Thank you for taking the time to watch this one. Bye for now.